Hey guys, this is Eric Vasquez here with a brand new tutorial for you today from designcuts.com. Now in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to create a fresh packaging design for a healthy snack delivery service in Photoshop. Now to do this we'll be using some elements from the all-new Timeless Vintage Design Bundle featuring a massive variety of vintage typefaces, thousands of quality vector illustrations, actions, ephemera, and so much more. And specifically, we will be using some beautiful illustrations, typefaces, and textures, courtesy of artists like Vector Hut, Honest Fonts, and Spencer & Sons Co. Now, if you're all ready to get started, then fire up Photoshop and let's begin. The first thing we want to do here is start a new document, and we're going to just give our document a name. I'm just going to call it Freshbox Packaging Design. And then for the dimensions here, let's go ahead and enter 1167 pixels wide by, let's say, 1333 pixels high. We can leave the resolution set to 300, RGB, and then we'll just make the background contents black. Now I know these dimensions seem a bit odd, but you guys will understand why I am using them in just a little bit. Now once you've gone ahead and created your new document, we're actually going to go back and create a second document that is going to be slightly different. Now we can keep the width the same, but let's go ahead and change the height of this document to 296 and then change the background contents color from black to white. Then go ahead and click OK and hit create. Now what we're going to do is move this tab to the side, click, hold the shift key, and drag this over into our main document. I'll press Command Control and the tilde key to come over to my other window and close it. And now I'm going to click and hold the shift key and drag this white rectangle down to the bottom. Now the reason I'm doing this is because we are first going to create our packaging design. We're going to create the label artwork first, and it's going to be one flat document. And then from there we're going to be applying it to a mock-up that has two sides. So this is going to basically serve as the front side, and this large area on top will serve as the top. Now, one thing I want to point out here is that I already have my rulers turned on, and you can see them on the top and the left here. If you guys don't have your rulers, go ahead and go to the View menu and make sure that Rulers is checked off, or you can use the shortcut Command-Control-R. Now, what we're going to do is drag a guide down from the top, and it should snap into place at the top of that white box. So once you've done that, you can just go ahead and get rid of that box. I just wanted to make sure that that is a nice, accurate area down here for us to use. What I'm going to do from here is double-click the background layer, and then just type in a new name. I'll just call it background. And then go ahead and press Command-Control-T to do a free transform. And you'll notice once I do that, that you have these handles on all four sides of the box. And if I try to click and drag a guide out now, I can snap this one right in the center here. Okay, and I also want to find the center of this top area. So to do that, I'll press Command-Control-T once again to do a free transform. Just click and drag from the bottom handle up until it snaps to this guide here, and then drag one more guide down from the top into the center right here. Okay, once you've done that, you can just go ahead and extend this black box back down to the bottom and press return, and our document is pretty much set up the way we want. So I just wanted to take a few seconds here to get everything set up, use a few guides and things like that to help make sure that we can be nice and precise. So what we're going to do next is come down here to the adjustment layer icon, and we're going to choose solid layer. Now we're going to enter the hex value F7F2D4, which is this kind of nice off-white cream color, and then we're going to add one more solid color layer. Now for this one I'm going to use a different hex value. I'm going to type out 7B9835, which is this nice green color. And what I want to do now is basically mask it out so I can only see the green on the bottom. So to do that, I'll press M to get my marquee tool, and I'm just going to click and drag from the bottom here all the way across up to this guide. And now I'm going to basically invert my selection. So this is the area that I want to keep, but since I already have a mask applied here, I'm going to come up to the select menu, choose inverse, press D on the keyboard to make sure I have my default colors, and then press X to toggle them until black is the foreground color. And then I'll press Alt, Option, and Delete on the keyboard. Now you can press Command-Control-D to deselect everything, and you now have this off-white color visible on the top portion and the green only visible on the bottom. From here, let's go to the File menu, and we can go to Place Embedded so that we can begin importing some of our freebies. Now the first one that we're going to be looking for here is inside of the freebies folder, and it is courtesy of Honest Fonts. Now we're looking for texture number 4, PNG, and then I'm just going to go ahead and click place. Now, once this comes in, I'm going to scale it up just by dragging outwards while holding Alt, Option, and Shift until it fills the entire canvas, and go ahead and press Return to apply the changes. And now just change the blending mode from normal to multiply. Now, hold the Alt Option key and click on the adjustment layer icon down here and choose Levels. Check off this option that says Use Previous Layer to create clipping mask. And then all we're going to do is move this left slider in until it's set to about 66, and we're going to move the right slider in until it's set to about 227 or so. All right, just to get a little more contrast there. Very good. And now you can see what that does. It kind of sharpens it up, so you get rid of a lot of that gray in-between color, so it's a little bit less noisy. Now come back up to the File menu and choose Place Embedded once again, and this time we're going to choose Texture 2. Now go ahead and click Place, and we're going to do the same thing where we click and drag outwards while holding Alt, Option, and Shift to scale it up until it fills the entire canvas. Now this time we'll go ahead and change the blending mode from normal down to, let's try difference. Okay, and that's basically going to invert this here. And then we're going to hold the Alt Option key, click on the adjustment layer icon, apply levels once again, check off the box that says Use Previous Layer to create clipping mask, and then click OK. This time we can manually input the settings. Let's go ahead and put an input value of 23. And on this value on the other side, we can put in a value of 164. Okay, and that's going to give us a little more contrast there. Now make sure that you have the Texture 2 Smart Object layer selected. Come back down to the adjustment layer icon once again, and this time we're going to choose Curves. Now let's go ahead and add a single point here in the right, and I'm going to drag it down to the lower right corner here, and I'm just going to manually input my values of 216 for the input, about 55 for the output. Come back over to my layers here, and I actually want this to be above the levels adjustment. So I can just click and drag this up, but what's even easier is using the keyboard shortcut Command Control and the right bracket. Now be careful not to do this more than once, because if you do, well, it actually won't let you. But if there was a layer above this, then you would lose the clipping mask. But since there's no layer above this, you don't have to worry too much about it. Now the last thing we need to do here is just click and lower the opacity to about 40%, because we just want to lessen the intensity of the effect just a bit. Another thing that you guys could do is just press the number 4 on the keyboard, or 40 to type in the value manually. Now let's go ahead and select that Curves adjustment layer, hold the Shift key, select the Texture 4 Smart Object layer, and now press Command Control G to put it into a new group folder, double click the Group 1 text, and just rename this layer Textures. Let's go ahead and add a new layer, and now come up to the window menu and choose Character so we can see our character panel. Now I'm going to press T to get my type tool, click somewhere up here in the top of the canvas, and I'm going to type out the word Freshbox, all one word. Okay, I'll press Command Control A to select all my text, and now for the typeface, I want to make sure that I am using SS Nixon 4, which is one of the free fonts from Spencer & Sons Co. It's a really beautiful font. There's a lot of styles in here that you guys can use, but we're just going to be using a small handful of them for this tutorial. Now for the size, let's go ahead and put in a value of about 33.14. Then we can go ahead and just move this layer over here towards the middle. Okay, and if you need to, press Command Control T to do a free transform, and you can just slide it over and snap it into place since we have those guides there. Alright, now we're going to double click on this layer to bring up the Layer Style dialog box and check off the Color Overlay option. And now let's go ahead and click on this color here so we can change the hex value. Now this time I'm going to enter 7B9835, just that nice green color. Go ahead and click OK twice. And now what we're going to do is apply a little bit of a warp to our text. So come in here, grab your type tool, and click inside this text box a few times to highlight the entire line. And then come up here to the top toolbar and choose the Create Warped Text icon. Now we want to click on this Style menu and choose Arc. And then for the setting, we're going to make sure we have horizontal checked off and apply a bend of about 28. Go ahead and click OK. And now we can just tap this down a few times. Now what I'm going to do is press Command Control J to duplicate it, and then Command and the left bracket to move this layer below the original. Now I'll use my left and down arrows to just offset this a couple clicks to the left, a couple clicks down, and then I'm going to double click on this layer so that we can change the color overlay value. Now for this copy, I'm going to enter the hex value CFCAAD. Okay, and that's just a slightly darker value than our background. And you can see that that's giving us a nice bit of a shadow effect there. Okay, so now I can move it around and just adjust it a little bit more. And now you guys can see we have a pretty nice little effect there. Now I'm going to create another new layer, grab my type tool once again, and this time I'm going to type out weekly delivery of healthy snacks made just for you. Okay, and I know that our text is running off here because it's too big, so just click anywhere inside and then press Command-Control-A to select the entire line. And let's go ahead and change this to SS Nixon 6, okay, which is one of the other styles we're going to be working with. And then we can change the size to about 5.53. It's going to be pretty small, so we don't have to worry about that. And let's also go ahead and change the tracking setting in our character panel over here to about 300. Okay, now we can move this over here towards the middle, press Command-Control-T, snap it into place on the guide here. Click inside with the Type tool to highlight the line, come back up here to the Create Warp Text option, and we're going to apply the same effect. Choose Arc for the style, Horizontal, and then apply a value of about 28. And there you go. Now we have our tagline running directly below our title text, which looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and create another new layer. Grab your Type tool again, and this time I'm going to click over here on the left side and type out the word healthy. Now I'll press Command-Control-A to select the whole line, and I'm going to come back to my character panel now and change this to SS Nixon 7, okay, which is a nice kind of script cursive style here that you guys can mess with. Now you'll notice as I highlighted this text that I got some options here to change the appearance of some of these letters. So I'll show you guys how this works in just a second, but first what I want to do is change a few of these settings. I'm going to return the tracking setting back to 0 here, and then go ahead and make the size of this text about 16.79 point, and you can leave it with a solid black fill. That's totally fine. Now what I want to do and point out to you guys is come up here to the window menu and open up this option that says Glyphs. Okay, and you'll see once I have this open, you've got some alternates here for a lot of these characters. So what we're going to do is select this healthy text, and if I just highlight this first, letter over here, I should have a few other options. So if I change this back to just a regular H, it can be an uppercase H. I open up my glyphs here, all right, and then I just select this first H. You'll see that I have these options here on the bottom, so I can select this one, and you can see how they look as you go. You just double click on the one you want to try out. And let's go with this one here. It gives us a nice underline under most of the letters. Now I can close that. Now what I want to do next is press Command-Control-J to duplicate the layer, Command in the left bracket to move it down below, press Command-Control-T to do a free transform, and then click and hold the Shift key and slide this over to the opposite side. Now I'll click inside and change this one to say Snacks. Okay, so once again, just like before, I'm going to come up, open the glyphs, and now if I just select the letter S, you'll see that it's showing me which letter I have right here. Okay, but if I scroll down a bit, you can see that we have a few alternates here. Okay, we have this one, and we have this one. So let's go ahead and try that one out, and you can see that you have them here as well. And that one just gives us a nice underline going all the way across all of the letters. Okay, so that adds a bit of variation. It's a nice kind of vintage style, where you get a little bit of a nice underline effect. And that looks pretty good. Now from here I'm going to press U on the keyboard to get the rectangle tool. And once I've done that, you can see up here in the top toolbar that we've got a rectangle shape. Now I want to change a few of these settings. So I'm going to click on stroke and choose this white box with the red stripe through it so we don't have any stroke. And then click on fill, and then come over here and click on this color picker icon in the top right. Now what I want to do here is change the fill color to 7B9835 to get that nice green color. And then all I'm going to do is click and drag while holding the Shift key to create a green rectangle. Okay, now let me just move my layers over here so I can rearrange these things. I'm going to take these top 3 layers, healthy snacks in the rectangle, and I'm just going to bring it down here, and then maybe take my tagline and move it below the title text just so things are kind of in a nice orderly fashion. Now what I want to do is make sure that all these text layers are below my textures. So I'm going to select the top layer, hold Shift, select Snacks, and then just click and drag it below the Textures layer. So now we can see our textures on top. Now let's select the rectangle layer again and press Command-Control+T to do a free transform. I'm going to hold the Shift key and just rotate this 45 degrees so that it becomes a diamond shape. Okay, and now I'm going to move it down, maybe inward slightly just to offset it. Somewhere about there looks pretty good for right now. And now go ahead and create another new layer just above that. Press T to get your type tool again, and click over here anywhere on top of your diamond shape. And we're going to type out Snacks Delivered Weekly on 3 separate lines. Okay, and I know it's a little bit hard to see right now, but we're going to adjust that over here in our character panel. I'm going to use SS Nixon 6 for the style, which is a nice condensed version of that font. And I'll change the type size to about 6.19. And then let's also go ahead and change the leading here, which you guys can see it's really high. It's at 155, so that's why we cannot even see the second and third lines right now. So let's go ahead and change that to 5.65. And then I can set the tracking to about -40 just to make it slightly more condensed. Okay, now I just want to go ahead and make sure that I break this onto 3 lines. And I'll add an exclamation point there at the end just to make it a little more exciting. And now let's go ahead and click on the color so that we can change that. I'm going to change it to the hex value F4F0D6, then press return. Grab my move tool over here. Here we go. Grab the Snacks Delivered Weekly. And I'm just going to use the arrows here to kind of knock this down into place. Now I'll select my rectangle layer and just make it a little bit smaller by pressing Command-Control-T. Hold Alt, Option, and Shift so that it scales inwards from the center, and then just drag inwards a little bit. Now, if you need to, go ahead and select that rectangle layer, hold Shift and select the text layer just above it, and come up here to the top toolbar and click on the Align Horizontal Centers option. You can also then go ahead and align the vertical centers just to make sure that everything is nice and even. Now from here, while those 2 layers are still selected, press Command-Control+G, double-click on the Group 1 text, and rename this Callout Box 1. Go ahead and press Command-Control-J to duplicate it, Command in the left bracket to move that copy down below. Click inside the text here in the Layers palette and just change it to Callout Box 2. Now press V to get your Move tool, then Command-Control-T to do a free transform. Click, hold the Shift key, and slide this copy over to the opposite side. Now grab your Type tool again, click inside, anywhere inside the text box here, and now I'll press Command-Control-A to highlight all of the text. And this time, let's go ahead and change this to Get Your First Box Free! Exclamation point. Okay, so now we have that in our other side here. Now, once again, I'll select this layer, hold Shift, and select the rectangle below. And I'm just going to quickly align that to make sure everything is centered. It says it's centered, but we can just cheat it and tap it down a little bit so it looks visually correct and accurate. Okay, so we now have our 2 callout boxes in place. Now I'm going to collapse that textures folder, grab the callout boxes and just move them down here so my layers are in order. And then what I'm going to do is just add another new layer. Okay, I'll place this below the callout box 2, press T to get my type tool, and I'm going to type out a lowercase w. Now if I highlight this, I can come to my character panel and change this to Nixon catchwords. Okay, and the catchwords are just words like and, of, the, things like that. But it's a really nice style here that we're going to be using, and we just want it to say of the. Okay, so all we're going to do here is just highlight this text, and then let's go ahead and change the size to about 23.86. Okay, make it a bit larger. Then go ahead and double click on the layer to bring up the layer styles. Check off the color overlay box. And we're going to change this to our nice green color here, or a variation of it. Let's do 7B9835, and then go ahead and press return twice to apply the changes. Okay, now I'm just going to press Command-Control-T to move this over here towards the middle somewhere. Okay, and now I'm going to add another new layer above it. Press T to get my type tool. And this time I'm going to change the font to the style SS Nixon 1. Which we used before. Okay, and then I can also go ahead and change this to 22.62 size with a tracking setting of 20, although I have to probably type out some words first. So let's go ahead and type out the best, highlight the text, and now I can change the tracking here to 20. And you can just leave the fill color set to black. That's totally fine. Now what I'm going to do is press Command-Control-T and just move this down here so that I can place it in front of our catchword. Okay, so it says the best of the. Press Command-Control-J to duplicate it, Command in the left bracket twice to move it down below the catchword, press Command-Control-T to do a free transform, click, hold the Shift key, slide this over to the other side, grab your type tool, click inside here, and this time let's just go ahead and type out the word fresh. So it now reads the best of the fresh. All right, we can just type that, and we can just tap that over a little bit with our arrows. Hold the Command-Control key and select the best, so you now have both of these text boxes selected here, and we're just going to tap it up a few times. All right, and now that way everything looks pretty centered, but just to be sure, let's go ahead and select the best, hold Shift, select fresh, so now we have all three of those layers selected, press Command-Control-T, and tap it over while holding the Shift key until the middle lines up with the guide. All right, and we can tap this up a little bit. We're going to be repositioning a few of these elements here as needed. Okay, just to give ourselves a little bit of room. Tap that over so it looks pretty evenly spaced. And now let's go ahead and add another new layer. Press T to get the type tool. And this time let's go ahead and type out visit us at www.freshbox.com for more information. All right, so that's kind of our call to action that we're going to have down here at the bottom. We can still use SS Nixon 1 for the style. And I'm just going to change the size to about 6.08 to make it nice and small. And then let's go ahead and adjust the tracking setting here to 100. Okay, so our letters will be nice and spaced out. Press Command-Control-T to move this down here and place it just below our other text. All right, something like that looks pretty good. And let's just go ahead and cheat it and make it a little bit larger so that it spans basically across the same width as the text above. Okay, and you can kind of use the arrows here to move it closer and just kind of cheat it. Press Command-Control-T, hold the Shift key, and scale it as needed. All right, now I'll just move it down here to give it a little bit of space, and that's looking pretty good. Okay, now what I want to do is move that layer below. Okay, so we have this whole kind of group here on the bottom. I'm just going to select those layers and move it up a little bit. I will also select the healthy, snacks, and both of these call-out boxes. Hold the Shift key and move those up here as well. So healthy and snacks kind of run right through the center here. And now I can just move down the call-out boxes a little bit. All right, so that gives us a little bit of breathing room. Now I'm going to come down here, add another new layer, grab my type tool, and I'll type out the word Freshbox once again. Now we're going to be working on adding some text to this lower green panel down here. So click inside your text box here. Let's go ahead and change this to SS Nixon 4 once again so that it matches our main title. And then let's go ahead and change the size back to about 33.15. And we'll change the fill color as well. Let's make the fill F4F 0D6. Okay, now press Command-Control-T to do a free transform. Move this over here in the center so it's nice and big. Okay, and that's looking pretty good. And then let's also bring the tracking setting down back to 0. Okay, we don't want the letters to be too spread out there. Now I'm going to press Command-Control-J to duplicate the layer, Command in the left bracket to move that copy down. And then just like we did earlier, I'm going to use the arrows to offset this a little bit down and to the left. Now double click on the layer to open the Layer Style dialog box here. Check off Color Overlay, and this time let's change the fill color to a darker shade of green. So I'll type in 607 A23, press OK, and now you can see that we have that same kind of nice drop shadow effect here. Okay, I'll hold the Command key and select both of those Freshbox layers, and then press Command Control in the left bracket just to make sure that it's below our call to action in the top panel. All right, so if I hold the Shift key and now move those up together, I'll press Command-Control-T and just make sure that it's nice and centered here with our guide, and that's looking pretty good. Now add another new layer, and we're going to repeat some of this information down here on the bottom. Now I just want this to basically say the same thing that it says up top here, weekly delivery of healthy snacks made just for you. So I'll go ahead and click, type that out once again. Made just for you. Press Command Control A to select the whole line and change this back to SS Nixon 6, I believe, is the one that we want. Yep. And then I'll go ahead and change the size to 5.64 with a tracking setting of 300, and the fill color can be the same as what we used before. All right, I'll press Command Control T to do a free transform, and now just move this over into the center here, and press Command Control T and hold the Shift key and just drag it out a little bit just so that it spans the width of the text above. Now we're going to create one more text layer here, but first let me just press Command Control and the left bracket to move that down. Add a new layer, grab your text tool once again, come down here, and this time we're just going to enter the URL www.freshbox.com. Press Command Control A to select all the text, and let's go ahead and change this to SS Nixon 1. Okay, and I'll also go ahead and change the type size to about 10.53. The tracking can be set to about 60. I don't have that as an option there, so I'll just type in 60 manually. And then once again, we can leave the fill color the same. Now I'll grab my Move tool up here in the toolbar, press V. You can also press V to do the shortcut, and then Command Control T to do a free transform. Click and drag this over here into the center. Now I'm just going to tap this down a little bit, grab my tagline down here, weekly delivery of healthy snacks made just for you. Press Command and the right bracket to move that up, and then use the up arrow to tap it up a little bit, just so we can space these elements out. Now we're looking pretty good so far, guys, so what I want to do is grab all of these text layers here, starting with the URL at the bottom, scroll up, hold the Shift key, and select the main Freshbox text up at the top. Now I'll press Command Control G to put it into a new group folder, double-click the Group 1 text, and just call this group folder Text. Okay, and what we're also going to do here is select the Color Fill 2 layer, hold Shift, select the background layer, press Command Control G once again, double-click the Group 1 text, and let's just go ahead and call this folder BG. Now most of our text is in place, so what we want to do now is begin to import and place some of our vector illustrations. So to do that, we'll come up to the File menu and choose Place Embedded, and let's go back to our freebies and open up the Vector Hut folder, where you guys will find a file called Orange Jelly Turnip. Okay, and now what we're going to do is choose Place, and then this will automatically be brought in as a smart object with the file name. But what we need to do is move our cursor over any of the four corners of the bounding box and drag inwards while holding the Alt, Option, and Shift keys to scale it down from the center. Now I'm going to place this directly below the healthy text over here, and maybe scale it down just a little bit more. Okay, somewhere about there. Now come back up to File, choose Place Embedded once again, and this time let's go ahead and grab the grapes2.png, bring that in, and then what we want to do is hold Alt, Option, and Shift and scale that down so that it's about the same size as our orange jelly turnip. Now I'm going to move this to the opposite side and place it below the word snacks. And then we're going to come back up here, once again, File, Place Embedded. This time we will open the fruiting branch of apricot file, which is going to serve as our main illustration here. So we can scale it down. It's not going to be quite as small. And then let's just also maybe rotate it a little bit counterclockwise, somewhere about here. Move it up a bit, scale it down, just kind of eyeball it so that it fits nicely in the middle. Okay, somewhere about there looks good. And you can see here that we're going to have to move some of our callout boxes around, but that's totally fine. Let's just get our illustrations in place first. Now we're going to bring in one more illustration. So once again, File, Place Embedded, and this time grab the cauliflower PNG illustration. Now for this one, we want to have it nice and big, so we can actually scale this one up a little bit, move it down slightly, somewhere about there. When you're happy with the size, press Return, and then press the number 1 on the keyboard, and what that's going to do is automatically reduce the opacity to 10%. Now I'm going to open the BG folder here, grab the cauliflower layer, and move it just below or in between these two color fill layers in the background. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want the green to be in front of it. So you can see that I can only see the cauliflower inside of the top portion of the panel. All right, and now it's a little bit easier. I can kind of move this around and decide how I want to scale it, how I want to crop it. So maybe I'll make it just a bit larger there. Move it down just so we can not really see the roots because the roots are a little busy there. Now close the BG folder, and what I want to do next is open the text folder here, and let's adjust our callout boxes. So I'll select the first one, hold shift and select the bottom one. I'm going to tap them down, and we can make it about centered with our text here on the bottom. And then maybe just move it over 1 or 2 clicks to the left, 1 or 2 clicks to the right, just to give it a little bit of space. All right, and now our label is looking pretty cool. Now what I want to do here is stylize this a little bit more. So I'm going to add a new layer, grab my type tool, click and type out a capital P. Now this time I'm going to highlight the text, come over here to my character panel, and I want to use the Nixon badges and labels style. Now let's go ahead and make this a little bit bigger so that we can see what we're doing here. I'll make it 172.11 point. Okay, and then I will also go ahead and move this behind the apricot. I know it's a little bit hard to see right now, but we're going to fix that in just a moment. So press Command Control and the left bracket to move that down. Okay, somewhere about there. And now let's go ahead and double click on the layer so that we can add a color overlay. All right, we're going to use that same green, so go ahead and click OK. All right, and that's looking pretty cool, but we still need to do a few things here just to adjust it and make it look a little bit nicer. So what I'm going to do is hold the Control key, the Command Control key, and click on the Smart Object thumbnail. And when I do that, it's going to activate a selection all the way around the apricot. Now what we need to do is come up to the Select menu, choose Modify, Expand, and enter a value of 5 pixels, and then go ahead and click OK. Now we have a nice 5 pixel buffer all the way around our apricot illustration. So from here, let's go back to the Select menu, and this time choose Inverse, or you can use the keyboard shortcut Command Control Shift and I, and then make sure that you have the labels, the badges and labels layer selected here, just below. And what we're going to do now is just click on the Add Layer Mask icon. All right, so essentially what we did there is just masked out this badge with that 5 pixel buffer that we had. Okay, so what I want to do now is basically get rid of this line here because it's a little bit busy and distracting. So I'm going to first add a new layer on top of the badge, hold the Control key, click on this small FX icon here, and choose Copy Layer Style. Select my new layer, hold the Control key, click on it, and choose Paste Layer Style. Double-click the Layer 1 text, and we're just going to call this Cover Up. Now press B on the keyboard to get your brush tool, and go ahead and make the brush a little bit larger. And now anywhere I paint will have that same green fill color. So it'll be really easy for me to just come in here, and you can see that I'm just kind of, eyeballing it, but I'm trying to paint out this inner line here, this inset line. Okay, because I only really want to see through the badge around the apricot, and we don't really need this line here. All right, we can get rid of these pieces. Just go all the way around and try to be, fairly accurate here. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to zoom in too far to do this. Okay, and I'm just using a mouse too, so it's not, the best thing in the world. It's a little bit easier if you have a tablet. Mine just is unplugged right now. Okay, and then you have something like that. So we have our cover-up layer, the badge, and the apricot below. Now I want to select my badge layer here, use my brush tool again, and as long as you have a solid black color selected, you can paint in the mask just to get rid of this little piece down here. If there's any weird little edges like that, you just want to tidy that up a bit. So now that we've done that, we can select the Fruiting Branch of Apricot Smart Object layer, hold Shift and select the Orange Jelly Turnip, press Command Control G to put it into a new group folder, double-click the Group 1 text, and just rename this folder Illustrations. Now I can zoom out or press Command Control 0 to get a good look at the label overall. Now I'm just looking at this again and wondering if I might want to come back in here and just change the value of this color overlay to match the green color that we used earlier, because looking at it now, it does just look a little bit dark. So let's go ahead and change this to 7B9835. All right, we can see that green now matches, but all we have to do is update that same color on the cover-up layer above. So instead of holding the control key and choosing copy style, paste style, all we really need to do is hold the Alt Option key and click and drag that FX icon onto the layer above. Okay, and there you go. So now let's just come back in here and adjust a few of these things. I want to move the healthy and the snacks text a little bit along with the illustrations. So I'm going to scroll down, select those two layers, open the illustrations folder here, hold the Command Control key, and select the grapes and the turnip so that I now have all those 4 layers selected together. Now what I can do is move the healthy text to the left, maybe 3 times, move the snacks text to the right about 3 or 4 times, and then come down to the illustrations and just move those over as well. Okay, so it's a little bit of, guesswork in here. Not everything is down to a science and everything like that. We're just kind of eyeballing some of these things now just to make sure that it looks good. So now that we have this in place, our flat label artwork is pretty much good to go. Okay, so what I want to do from here is make sure that I save my work first before moving on. And then once you've done that, we're going to select all 4 of these folders. So select the top textures folder, hold Shift and select the BG folder, and now press Command Control J to duplicate all of them, and then Command Control E to merge them together. I'm going to double click this layer here and just change this to Merged Artwork. And then I'm going to turn my guides back on, and I apologize if I didn't tell you guys the shortcut to do this earlier, but Command Control and the semicolon key will turn your guides on and off. Okay, now what I want to do is press M on the keyboard to get my marquee tool once again. And on the merged artwork layer, I'm going to click and drag just around the bottom portion here, and it should snap into place where your guide is. Now, press Command Control J to duplicate your selection onto a new layer. And I'm just going to click and rename this layer Front Artwork, okay, because it's going to be on the front of our box. Now select the merged artwork layer again, press M to get your marquee tool, and this time click and drag only around the top portion of the panel. Press Command Control J once again to duplicate that layer onto a new selection, double click the layer 1 text, and let's go ahead and call this one Top Artwork. So you now have the front artwork on its own layer, the top artwork on its own layer, a merged layer of everything, and then all of the original folders. Okay, so that's really going to help us out a lot once we move on to the next section, where we can now begin applying this to our mock-up and building out the scene. Now for this portion of the tutorial, we're going to be working with this mailer box mock-up, which you guys can find courtesy of Graphic Burger. It's a free template that you guys can download, and you can find the link for that in the written portion of this tutorial. Now once you do download it, there will be 2 Photoshop files in there, so just make sure that you're opening up this one, number 2 PSD. Now once you're in here, you'll notice that you have a couple smart object layers on the top. You've got the front, you've got the top, and you've got a few other layers here as well. So the first thing we're going to look at here is the Design Front Smart Object layer. So let's go ahead and double click that to open it up. And I'm just going to move my tabs over here to the side so that I can get all my documents over here, rearrange a few things, maybe make this a bit smaller, make that a bit smaller. Okay, and now you can see that you just have this empty placeholder file, which essentially is just the front portion of the box. So if I come over to my flat label design artwork here, I can select the front artwork layer, click, hold the Shift key, and drop it right in here. Now, you'll see that I need to actually make this just slightly larger because the sides are a little bit larger than our work area. So just press Command Control T and click and drag outwards slightly while holding the Alt, Option, and Shift keys. Now, once this fills up the entire canvas area here, press Command Control S to save it, and then Command Control W to close out of that tab. Now I'm pressing the F key to change views here so that I can now see both of these things side by side, and you'll notice that you now have that front artwork for our label applied to the box. Let's go ahead and do the same thing for the design top layer. Come back over to our flat artwork, hold the Shift key, click and drag the top artwork into here, and this one will fit perfectly so you don't have to resize it or anything. And all we're going to do is press Command Control S to save it, Command Control W to close the window. And now we've got our flat label artwork on our box. So what I want to do next is turn on this color layer here directly below the box, and you'll see that that allows us to change the color of these sides of the cardboard. So if I double click in here, I'm going to enter the hex value F97024, which is the darker shade of green that will kind of match the front portion of our label here. Now what I want to do is select the Design Front Smart Object layer, hold Shift and select this shadow layer down here on the bottom, and then press Command Control G to put it into a group folder, and I'll just call this Box Mockup. Now that that's in a folder, I'm going to hold the Alt Option key, come down here to the adjustment layer icon, and choose Hue Saturation Adjustment. Check off the box that says Use Previous Layer to create a clipping mask, and click OK. Now you'll notice, just like with regular layers, we can apply clipping masks or adjustment layers with clipping masks to group folders, which is a really powerful kind of feature that you guys can use in Photoshop. And all we're going to do here is just boost the saturation slider up to about 21 or 22. Okay, just to make those colors pop a little bit more. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is open the Backgrounds folder here and double click on this Custom Color Solid Color Adjustment layer. Okay, and now what we're going to do is go ahead and change the value of this color to B0AE9D. All right, and that's this grayish color here. Press Command Control J to duplicate that layer. And now I'm going to change the blending mode of this layer to Hard Light. Click in here and we're going to change the hex value to 605 D4C, which is like a darker shade of that same greenish gray color. Alright, and then what we're going to do is add a Hue Saturation Adjustment layer. No need to apply a clipping mask or anything because we want this to affect all the layers below. And what we're going to do here is change a few of these sliders. So let's input a value of 124 for the hue, move the saturation down to -24, and move the lightness down to about -15. So it's a little bit darker, and now this grayish blue color. Now I'm going to press F again, just so I can move this over here so that I can see my original label artwork that we created earlier. And what we're going to do now is import a few of these things over here. So I'm going to open the BG folder, grab the cauliflower smart object, click, hold the Shift key, and drop it into my mockup. Now I'm going to press Command Control T to do a free transform, and just click and drag outwards while holding the Alt Option Shift keys to make it nice and big. You can move it down a bit, position it however you like, and then once you're happy with the size and the placement, just go ahead and press Return on the keyboard. Now the next thing we'll do is come back over to our label again, and this time I'm going to drag the entire Textures folder over into here while holding Command and the Shift key at the same time. Alright, now I want to make sure that this is behind the box mockup itself, and then I'm going to press F to change the view, Command Control T to do a free transform, and now click and drag outwards while holding Alt Option and Shift to scale it up until it fills the entire canvas. Now press F 2 more times so that you can see these things side by side, so that you guys can kind of see what we're doing here. We're basically bringing in some of these elements and just altering a few things to change it up for this scene, just so that our box really stands out. So we're using a different color with the same textures and illustrations and things like that. Now I'm going to go ahead and select the cauliflower layer, then add a new layer. Press T to get your type tool, click over here, and I'm going to type out the same call to action that we used earlier. So I'm going to say, visit us at www.freshbox.com for more information. Press Command Control A to select the entire line. Come over here and let's change this to Nixon 1. Okay, and then we can also change the size to 16.32. And let's also go ahead and change the tracking to 60. Put that in manually. And change the fill color to the same kind of off-white cream color that we used earlier, which was F4F0D6. Bonus points if you guys remember these colors. I have to kind of keep looking at it for reference here. Alright, and then all we're going to do is center this. We're going to move it over here, move it down a bit, somewhere around there. Okay, move the character panel out of the way, come back over here to our flat label artwork, and this time open up the text folder. Now what I want to do is select the Freshbox text, hold the Command Control key, select the stylized drop shadow layer as well, and then also select the tagline. So we've got these 3 text layers selected. Click, hold Command Control and the Shift key, and drag and drop this over here into our document. Now we can't see it at the moment because I believe it's probably hidden by the box, so I'm going to press Command Control T to do a free transform, hold the Shift key and slide it up, and then once again click and drag outwards while holding Alt, Option, and Shift on the keyboard. And now we can just scale that text up nice and large above the box mockup. Now I'm going to hold the Shift key, tap it down a few times just to give myself a little bit of space on the top there. And what I also want to do now is move the box down a bit as well. So to do that, we'll go ahead and select our box mockup. All right, I'm just going to rename that there so it's all caps. And then we also have this layer on top that says Overlay Layers, Don't Edit. Okay, so I need to select that layer as well because that kind of controls the highlights and everything on the box. So select that layer first, or that folder first, hold the Command Control key, and then select the box mockup. Now press V to get your move tool, hold the Shift key, and tap the down arrow a few times just so we can position our box in the middle of the composition. Now you can move the URL maybe up or down a little bit depending on what looks good to you. And then we can go ahead and modify our title text here. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on the first copy of the Freshbox text. And I'm going to change the value, the color value here, to that same color, F4F0D6. Go ahead and click OK. And I know that I want that same color applied to the tagline. So if you guys remember, the easiest way to do that is to click on this FX icon, hold Alt, Option, and Shift, and then just literally drag and drop it onto that layer. Okay, so now the tagline layer matches that. That matches the color of the call to action in the URL on the bottom. And now all we need to do is double click on the shadow layer, or the second copy of the Freshbox text. Come in here and we'll go ahead and change the color overlay. We'll change the hex value for that to B7B18B, which is just a nice darker kind of value there, and then go ahead and click OK twice. Okay, now what I can do is select this layer, the Freshbox layer, hold the Shift key, select the call to action layer, press Command Control G to put it into a group folder, and just call it text. I can grab my cauliflower, drop it in the top level of the backgrounds folder here, just call that backgrounds, press F, and there we go. Now we have created our nice label artwork for the packaging, and we also built this nice scene around it so that it kind of looks like a nice ad or something to promote this service. I wanted to have some fun with this nice vintage bundle and show you guys some of the things that you can do with it. Hopefully it gives you some ideas and gets the wheels turning. But there's still time to check out the Timeless Vintage Design Bundle. It's got tons of great stuff inside, fonts, illustrations, actions, all kinds of things that are going to help you guys step up your design game. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this tutorial. And as always, we would love to see what you guys do with these elements and these tips and tricks in your own work. My name is Eric Vasquez. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.